Welcome back to this week's Car-Pinionated, where it's our weekly and slightly irreverent talk about cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61 in Hartford, and joining me is Glenn Packman of Fairfield County, car enthusiast and improv comedian, and also Jeff Buchholz from WBBM in Chicago, where he is a writer and editor, and also a car enthusiast. So this week, gentlemen, we're going to do another round robin of cool car campaigns, car advertising campaigns, and Jeff, you brought up something when we were chatting about what we were going to do on the show that kind of led to this about Teslas, and you want to share that.
Yeah, ever since Tesla sort of became the default electric vehicle in America, the company has sort of made it a habit of doing things kind of differently than every other car maker. We've talked on this podcast about how they don't have traditional dealers. You buy your Tesla directly from company-owned stores. Elon Musk famously fired his public relations staff, feeling that he could do PR better than a public relations staff, and so journalists can never get comments because his feeling appears to be that he doesn't need journalists to sell cars. And for a while, he's been right about that. I mean, I think the Model Y is like maybe the best-selling electric car in the world, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But a funny thing happened when I was on YouTube the other day. I saw a pre-roll ad for a Model 3. I've never seen a television commercial for a Model 3, and now probably because of the algorithm, I cannot escape pre-roll ads for the Tesla Model 3.
Yeah.
And, and of course they talk about how, oh, well, here, the Tesla HEPA filter is superior to a car that doesn't have a HEPA filter. That's probably true. Mercedes-Benz cars all have HEPA filters, but it's not a widespread feature. And one ad saying Tesla Model 3s with rear-wheel drive are the best car you can drive in the snow because it's computerized something or other, monitors, blah, 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 hundreds of thousands of times. And I'm like, oh, so it has stability program, which literally every car has to have by law.
Right.
I mean, I actually think Teslas probably are pretty good in the snow because they're kind of heavy and the center of gravity is super low because of where the batteries are. So, and it's a lot of it is just sort of, overhyped frippery, like the CEO of Tesla is wont to provide from time to time with his cars. But I thought it was interesting, given Tesla's history, that all of a sudden they're resorting, and at a time when the American market is very much retrenching on the take-up of electric vehicles, that Tesla has resorted to a good old-fashioned commercial in order to try to sell its cars. And so the Model 3s are popping up with ads for the Lucid Air, which is a far more handsome car in every sense. And any other car companies that are advertising kind of in the digital space right now. It was a development I had not predicted, but I guess if you're the CEO of Tesla and you've promised a certain amount of sales level, and all of a sudden people are like, I don't know how I feel about electric cars. Also, we don't know how we feel about the CEO of Tesla. I guess you got to do something.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that, and like I haven't seen it. It may be a regional thing. Could be a lot. Could it be a lot of of things? But I find it very interesting. And the three of us grew up, I'm sure, with rear-wheel drive cars in the northern part of the country, and there's still. I'm like,
they're not great.
In this. No,
there are better options.
Yeah,
I don't care what the motor is driven by. There are better options.
Yeah, exactly. Glenn, talk to us about one of your favorite car campaigns, car advertising campaigns.
Recently, Volkswagen put out, I think during the Super Bowl, as a matter of fact,
Mhm.
our most current Super Bowl, they did like a retro timeline commercial of past Volkswagens to hype us for new Volkswagens. That was incredible, but not the one I want to pull out of all of the past history. In the year 2000, Volkswagen did a commercial for their Jetta, which was the Bora in Europe, that generation, and it was a young couple driving their black Jetta down a rainy street in New Orleans. And as the car was going down, the music was synchronized to the windshield wipers, which was synchronized to people walking down the sidewalk, which was synchronized to somebody bouncing around a basketball. And it was both really eerie and really beautiful, and it really showed off the car very well. And the best part is that it ends beautifully, where the car gets splashed with water and all the synchronicity stops all at once. And the driver goes, "Well, that was interesting." And that's all it is. And then the voiceover,
Yeah.
Volkswagen Jetta. Really worth it. Do Google search for Volkswagen quote unquote synchronicity. The ad will come
Yeah.
up. It's
Yeah.
worth a minute of your time.
Yeah.
And a
And
beautiful
that,
car, by the way. It was just
yeah. Oh,
one of my
that's
favorite
my favorite Jetta ever.
by a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tagging off of that, I really like Volkswagen's new campaign, and I think it's very smart. It coming out with the ID Buzz, and they want to go play on that nostalgia, that 70 close 80-year history. My math is very bad, but yeah, that kind of nostalgia of what Volkswagens have been to people, and how they are woven into the American fabric, as it were. So I really like this new campaign, which leads me to say that more often than not, Volkswagen knocks it out of the park when it comes to advertising.
Yeah, I'm with the new campaign. I remember seeing that ad, and I mean, first of all, I think everybody's got Volkswagen stories in their
Mhm.
families.
Mhm.
And I think that ad does a great job of tapping into all of that. It's one of the few guys. This is, oh man, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. That it's one of the ads in the Super Bowl that actually almost made me cry. Like, I
Mhm.
loved every part of it.
Mhm.
There are two takeaways I had from it. Some of the internet discourse around that ad was, huh, how come I started in 1949? What happened before that? Which I suppose is a fair question.
Ixnay on the history, hey.
Yeah. The second thing was, I really wanted the reveal at the end to be better. I really
Okay.
wanted them to show something new and populist and simple and kind of not another car that looks like the Beetle, although, the Beetle is a fine car, or was a fine car. Even the new Beetle was a fine car for what it was at the time. I wanted it to be something that was more kind of the ethos of what Volkswagen was in 1949, a sort of inexpensive car for the people, maybe one that's electrified, maybe one that's, is sort of innovative in packaging. And what we got instead was an electric version of the sort of retro pastiche bus reboot that we've literally been promised by the Volkswagen Group for 20 years.
Right.
And it just showed up. And I can tell you, having seen it at the Chicago Auto Show, the two-tone paint does a lot of work to make that thing look the way it does. And the leather on the seats was already wearing down
Really?
after a 10-day show at McCormick Place. So it doesn't bode well. But you're right. Volkswagen's ad campaigns historically, this is back the famous Doyle Dane Bernbach display ad showing a picture of a Type 1, a Beetle, and the caption "lemon" underneath it. That's sort of the archetype for what a great, sort of truth-telling, really clever marketing ad. My favorite Volkswagen ad is probably the GTI Mark V ads. with the lab-coated German guy in the aircraft hangar asking all of these bros about their weird cars, their weird little performance cars, with his Inga type assistant helping him out. And then, you know, at some point he goes, "Time to unpimp the auto." And then it, you know, a piano falls on one, and one of them gets launched by a trebuchet or something, and then reveals the GTI. And that's one of the best TV campaigns of all time, and still makes me laugh now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that's my favorite generation of GTI.
Yeah. I always think of
Kleine GTI, du siehst prima aus.
you know,
Oh.
the Volkswagen's got the first GTI.
Right, the German, when they I think they actually redid the Little GTO song by Ronnie and the Daytonas
Right.
Yeah.
in
Yep.
German.
In German, yeah. Well, it was
Incredibly clever.
it was completely different lyrics, but yeah, or, I don't know. I'd have
No,
to
it
go
was-
back and translate, but I think it was.
Yeah,
It was sung in
GTO,
German. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It was a great
Vol-
ad.
yeah, the other Volkswagen ad that always cracks me up is the Darth Vader ad with the little kid as the Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And the Super Bowl ad had a great callback to that,
Yeah.
with an ID4 and a kid in a Vader costume. Yeah, that was great. So this episode of Car-Pinionated is really all about, apart from a Tesla ad, how much we love Volkswagen ads. And I wish Volkswagens were as good as their ads are. For
Sure. Yeah.
Now would be a perfect time for me to mention the pending release of the ID2 so that people at home can drink.
Yes, exactly. Wait, no, it's the Volvo. It's the Volvo.
No, Yes,
Oh,
it's a-
you're right. Sorry. Okay. No, you
Mess
did
up
it
your
for
own
me.
drinking game.
So,
Good
yeah.
grief.
What's the secret word of the day? Volvo EX30. There you go.
Hey, Glenn, nobody knows who Groucho Marx is.
I know.
Sorry.
But that leads to, I think Volvo has also had a series of really good ads that kind of define their product and an iconic way. I always get their model names mixed up, but the SUV, their largest SUV,
XC90.
XC90. When that first came out, there was this beautiful ad where they're going to a wedding or something, and it's all just like blonde wood and light leather, and Scandinavian roads through mountain passes and stuff like that, and just evokes this style, this moment that is really, really interesting. And then you go back to like all the Volvos stacked on the 240, and things like that, and or nose diving or things like that,
Right.
and they're really having an understanding of their product and how to position that product that even at that time was not very, it didn't change much, didn't look like much, but they carved a niche for themselves, especially in more liberal areas of the Northeast, like Amherst, Northampton,
For instance, yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Volvo ad was the first S80. After decades of making cars that looked like the box a Saab came in, they brought out this streamlined aerodynamic S80, and at the time Donald Sutherland was the voice.
New Volvo S80.
And this ad came out with a kind of a rework of this great song by Dimitri from Paris called Une Very Stylish Fille, and the sample in it is from I think an Audrey Hepburn movie.
How do I look?
Very good. I must say, I'm amazed.
And it just and the voiceover was
The new Volvo S80. My goodness.
it was just like, it was such a good ad, and it was so like, it represented such a departure for Volvo stylistically. It was like, we're going to be an upscale brand, and here's how we're going to do it. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
The car was the star of that thing.
Sure. Glenn, do you have another one?
I do. I've got two more. This is going way back for some people, a lot of people. In 1981, Ford, with the Mercury division, introduced a commercial for their newly released Mercury Lynx, which was the Ford Escort, just slightly remodeled. The commercial was scored by Vangelis, who did the Chariots of Fire theme.
Same era. Yeah.
And it was really just, it was much closer to a piece of art than it was to good commerce, because it was just trippy, and it involved a very large white globe that kept appearing throughout the commercial, and it was very, very stylized, and I don't think there was a lot of voiceover to the commercial. All I do remember is that the boomingly deep voiced narrator said, "The world belongs to lynx," and then they showed a lynx hopping on top of this big white ball. It was very, very conceptual, and for 1981, I was a freshman in college. I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen, because it was just not like anything on TV. It didn't help sales of the Lynx, I don't think, all that dramatically. The Escort always sold better, but it was a cool commercial.
I don't think your average Mercury buyer was going, I'd buy more of them if there was conceptual advertising.
Right, exactly. Especially considering it was really, the Escort Lynx were really utilitarian cars too.
Yeah.
They were meant to be just bread and butter, and they introduced, this commercial was anything but bread and butter. So look it up online. It's goofy in how weird it was for the time. So, and Vangelis, I guess everybody's got to make a paycheck, right? So.
He would have I think he won the Oscar for original score for Chariots of Fire.
I believe you're right.
His ask was probably pretty high at that point.
Right. Just as a complete sidebar, I do this improv show, and when we are done with the show, the way we are exited off is our sound person begins playing the Chariots of Fire theme. And with that, all the people on stage suddenly go into slow motion, and we get introduced off by our names. And when our names are introduced, we pop out of slow motion. So that's 1980, and people still understand what the theme means all these years later. It's just, it's affiliated with sports and with determination.
For sure.
It's timeless.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, I have to bring this to a close. As always, it's great fun being here with you guys. And if you folks at home like watching this, you can look up our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, concerns, ideas that you want to toss our way, you can email me at dstewart@fox61.com. And
if you don't like it, you can email info@jalopnik.com.
Or just avoid the internet altogether.
Exactly. Well, all right. We'll see you next time.